Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Steam rolled out from the half-open bathroom door, curling through the dim hallway like whispered temptation. I had just stepped out of the bedroom, still fixing the strap of my robe. When I froze, he was there. My stepson, standing in the mist, his hair wet and clinging to his forehead, a towel forgotten somewhere inside. Droplets traced down his shoulders, catching the warm light as he blinked in surprise. For a second, neither of us moved. The only sound was the faint hum of water still dripping from the shower head, and my own heartbeat, pounding faster than it should. His eyes flicked up, then down, before darting away. But it was too late. The air between us shifted, charged, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I turned slightly, pretending to reach for the doorknob, but my hand trembled just enough for him to notice. He swallowed hard, his chest rising and falling with each nervous breath. I thought no one was home," he muttered, voice low, almost apologetic. "I was just getting something," I said softly, forcing a smile that didn't quite hide the flutter in my stomach. Then his gaze caught something behind me, my reflection in the mirror at the end of the hall. The robe had slipped just a little, revealing a glimpse of red lace beneath. His eyes widened, his lips parted, and I felt a wave of heat rise to my face. "Go, get dressed," I whispered, but my voice didn't sound like mine. It was too calm, too breathy. He nodded quickly, but still didn't move. For one dizzying heartbeat, we both stood there, caught between what we should do and what we couldn't quite ignore. The tension crackled, thick and unspoken, until a creak from the floorboard somewhere in the house broke the spell. He stepped back, fumbling for the door, and disappeared into the steam. I exhaled shakily, pressing my palm to my chest as if to steady the racing inside. What just happened? And then I heard the faint click of his door closing. But not before he turned once more, eyes meeting mine through the haze, and smiled. The kind of smile that said this wasn't over. The house used to be filled with laughter, movie nights, shared dinners, playful teasing that made the walls feel alive. But lately, it had become quiet. Too quiet. My husband had been away more often, business trips that turned into weeks, sometimes months. He said it was for us, for the bills, for the future. But somewhere in that future, I had started to feel forgotten. At first, I told myself it was just loneliness. That the silence after he left was temporary. But silence can grow roots. It can spread through the walls, into your chest, until you start craving sound, any sound that reminds you you're still here. Then came his son. My stepson. Quiet, polite, always keeping to himself. He was in college now, staying with us for a few weeks. I hadn't realized how grown he'd become, his voice deeper, his presence filling a room in ways I didn't expect. It wasn't wrong, I told myself. It was just comfort, the way he'd smile when I cooked his favorite meal, or how he'd listen when I talked about the little things his father never asked about anymore. But there were moments that felt different. Like the morning he helped me fix the curtain rod. Our hands brushed, just lightly, but it was enough to make me drop the screwdriver. We both laughed, though my heart was beating too fast to join in fully. Or that evening on the porch, when it rained suddenly, and we both ran under the same small umbrella. Our shoulders touched. Neither of us moved away. He had his father's eyes, that calm, deep brown, but they looked at me differently. There was curiosity in them, a kind of unspoken question neither of us dared to answer. And yet, it lingered. Every night, I'd tell myself it was just imagination. That it was the loneliness playing tricks on me. But when I caught him looking, just for a second longer than he should, I felt that quiet ache again. The one I'd buried under routines, chores, and phone calls that never came from my husband. One night, I heard him playing guitar in his room. The melody was soft, almost sad. I stood by the door, listening. When he noticed me, he smiled faintly and said, "This song reminds me of you. You're the calm in this house." I didn't know what to say. So I just smiled back and left before my voice betrayed me. The cracks in this home were growing wider, not from anger, but from everything that had been left unsaid. And in that silence, something else was taking root. Something neither of us could name yet. The air between us had changed since that morning. It was subtle, a glance too long, a silence that lingered, a breath that came too close. Every shared moment seemed to carry something unspoken now. The kind of tension that made even ordinary things feel charged with meaning. One afternoon, I was folding laundry in the living room when he walked in, shirtless again, casual, unbothered, but I caught the faint smirk tugging at his lips when he saw me freeze mid-fold. He was testing me, I realized. Or maybe testing himself. Either way, my pulse quickened. "Do you need help?" he asked, stepping closer. His voice was calm, but his tone carried something deeper, curiosity, or maybe challenge. "I'm fine," I said quickly, forcing a small laugh. "You should. Put something on before you catch a cold." He chuckled, that low kind of laugh that seemed to linger even after it ended. "You sound just like Dad," he teased. The mention of his father hit me like a wave, a reminder of the distance between what was right and what was quietly happening. I turned away, but the scent of his soap, the warmth radiating from where he stood, it was too close. Too real. Later that evening, he came home later than usual. I heard the door close, the shuffle of his steps, the sound of his jacket hitting the back of the couch. I looked up from the kitchen and saw it, a flash of jealousy. His eyes flicked to my phone, where his father's name glowed on the screen from a missed call. "You still wait for him to call?" he asked softly. Something in his tone made me pause. There was no judgment, just longing. For what, I wasn't sure. "He's your father," I said, but the words felt hollow even as I spoke them. He smiled faintly, walking past me close enough for his sleeve to brush my arm. A quiet, electric moment. A heartbeat of temptation. And just before disappearing into his room, he turned and said, "If he keeps leaving you alone, someone else might not." The words hung heavy in the air. I didn't move. I couldn't. The line between wrong and what had never felt thinner. It was raining again that night, hard, relentless, the kind that drowned out every sound except your own heartbeat. The power flickered once, twice, then went out completely, leaving the house in half-darkness. I lit a single candle on the dining table, its glow soft and trembling. He came downstairs quietly, barefoot, his shadow stretching across the floor. "Power's out," he said, voice low, almost careful. "I know," I replied, my hands trembling slightly as I adjusted the candle. "Your father was supposed to call tonight." He didn't answer. Instead, he walked closer, stopping just beside me. The room felt smaller now, the silence louder. Rain lashed against the windows, thunder rolling somewhere in the distance. "You shouldn't wait up for him anymore," he murmured, eyes fixed on the flickering flame. "He never waits for you." Something inside me cracked at that, not in anger, but in the kind of sadness that had been waiting for too long to be heard. I turned to face him, and for a moment, the candlelight danced between us, painting warmth across his face. "You shouldn't say things like that," I whispered. "You don't understand." He stepped closer, not enough to touch, but enough that I could feel the heat from his skin. "Maybe I do," he said. "Maybe I see what he doesn't." My breath caught. The air was thick, heavy with everything unsaid. His eyes held mine, steady, unafraid, and I realized how dangerously close we'd come to crossing that invisible line. "Go back to your room," I said softly, though the words trembled on my tongue. But he didn't move. He just looked at me, searching, almost pleading, before whispering, "If I go now, will things ever go back to normal?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. The candle flickered again, then went out, plunging the room into darkness. For a heartbeat, I felt his hand brush against mine in the dark, a fleeting touch, accidental or not, I couldn't tell. But it sent a shiver down my spine. And then, from somewhere deep in the shadows, his voice came, quiet, uncertain. "Do you want me to go?" The thunder roared again. I didn't answer. The storm raged through the night, thunder shaking the windows while the candle on the table burned lower and lower, its flame unsteady, like everything else between us. Neither of us spoke. We just stood there, caught in the heavy silence that carried the weight of everything unsaid. Then my phone lit up on the table, his father's name flashing across the screen. A second later, it stopped ringing, replaced by a text, "Staying another week. Don't wait up." I stared at the message, my throat tightening. The rain outside blurred against the glass, but my vision blurred more from what I refused to feel. Beside me, he saw the message too. I could sense the tension in him shift from restraint to something braver. He took a step closer. "He's not coming back soon, is he?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. He swallowed, struggling for words. "I can't keep pretending I don't see it. The way he treats you like you're part of the furniture. You deserve more than that." The words hit deeper than they should have. No one had ever said that to me, not even my husband. I wanted to argue, to tell him this was wrong, that his concern was misplaced. But the truth sat right there between us, undeniable and raw. "Stop," I whispered, shaking my head. "You don't know what you're saying." "Yes, I do." His voice was steady now, almost trembling with conviction. "I've tried to ignore it, but I can't anymore. You think I don't notice the way you hold everything together when he's gone? The way you hide how tired you are?" My heart raced. He wasn't angry. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was telling the truth. Then he said it, the thing that broke whatever calm I had left. "I love you." The words hung in the air, heavier than thunder. My breath hitched. For a second, the world went completely still. And then, before I could say anything, the front door creaked open. We both froze. A suitcase hit the floor. His father's voice filled the silence, sharp and cold. "What's going on here?" The storm outside went quiet, but inside, everything erupted. The candle went out in a puff of smoke, leaving only the faint smell of wax and rain. I turned slowly, my heart in my throat. My husband's eyes moved from me to his son, confusion twisting into suspicion. None of us spoke. The storm had brought him home early, and with it, everything we'd tried to bury had come crashing to the surface. The truth wasn't hidden anymore, and nothing in this house would ever be the same again. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the sound of rain filled the silence, steady and merciless. My husband stood by the door, suitcase dripping, eyes moving between us like he was trying to fit together the pieces of a puzzle he didn't want to solve. "What is this?" he asked finally, his tone flat, dangerous in its calmness. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Words failed me, replaced by the sharp sting of guilt crawling up my chest. My stepson looked pale, tense, his jaw clenched, his hands trembling at his sides. "It's not what you think," I whispered. "Then tell me what it is," he snapped, his voice rising. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like something's been going on in my own house while I'm out breaking my back for it." His words hit hard, each one like a blow. My stepson took a step forward, his voice steady despite the storm in his eyes. "Don't talk to her like that. You don't even see what you've done to her." My husband turned to him, disbelief and anger flashing in his face. "Excuse me? You think you can talk to me that way in my home? This isn't just your home," his son shot back. "You left her here alone. You stopped being a husband long before tonight." The room fell into a tense silence. My heart pounded in my ears. I wanted to stop them, to make it all go away, but the truth had already been dragged out into the light. "I didn't plan this," I said quietly. "None of this was supposed to happen. But maybe it's what had to happen for you to finally see what's been missing." My husband's expression faltered, not anger now, but something closer to hurt. "You're blaming me?" "No," I said softly, tears stinging my eyes. "I'm saying we both forgot what love was supposed to feel like." He looked away, defeated. The storm outside had softened now, the thunder distant. My stepson took a slow breath, glancing at me, not in desire this time, but understanding. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I didn't mean to cause this." I nodded. "It's not your fault. It's no one's. It's just everything finally breaking where it was already cracked." The three of us stood there in the fading candlelight, the rain easing to a whisper. Nothing was fixed, but something had shifted. When my husband finally turned to leave the room, he didn't say another word. He just paused at the door, shoulders heavy, and whispered, "We'll talk tomorrow." And as he walked away, the silence that followed wasn't cold anymore, just uncertain. The kind of silence that might still hold a chance for something new. The morning after the storm was quiet, too quiet, but peaceful in its own way. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, touching every corner of the living room that had, just hours ago, been filled with thunder, arguments, and broken words. I sat on the couch, fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee, staring out at the wet garden. My husband's suitcase was still by the door. He hadn't left, not completely. That, at least, meant something. Footsteps sounded behind me. I turned and saw him, tired eyes, rumpled shirt, but softer now. The anger from last night had faded, replaced by something heavier, quieter, remorse. He sat beside me, not too close at first. "I didn't sleep," he said. "Neither did I admitted, setting the cup down. For a long moment, we just sat there in silence, letting the morning light fill the gaps our words couldn't reach. Then, finally, he sighed. "Maybe he was right," he murmured. "Maybe I stopped seeing you. I thought working harder meant loving harder." Tears welled in my eyes, but I smiled faintly. "We both forgot what we needed," I said. "Maybe last night was what it took to remember." He nodded slowly, then reached for my hand, hesitant, almost afraid. But when his fingers finally brushed mine, the warmth felt familiar again. "Real. I don't want to lose this," he whispered. "You don't have to," I said softly. "Not if we start over." Outside, the clouds were clearing, sunlight breaking through like forgiveness. The storm had washed everything raw, but in that rawness, there was truth and maybe even a second chance. Later that morning, my stepson came downstairs, suitcase in hand. His expression was calm, understanding. "I think it's best if I go back to campus early," he said gently. My husband stood and walked toward him. There was tension, yes, but also quiet respect. "Thank you," he said simply, "for being honest. I'll take care of her this time." The young man nodded, then turned to me. "You deserve peace," he said. And for the first time in a long while, I felt it. As he left, I stood beside my husband by the window. The rain had stopped completely now, replaced by the smell of wet earth and new beginnings. He wrapped an arm around me, hesitant at first, then stronger, more certain. "I missed you," he whispered. I leaned against him, closing my eyes. "Then don't miss me again." Outside, the world was bright and clean, the storm just a memory, one that, somehow, had saved what was almost lost. And, for the first time in a long while, it truly felt like love again.